Hey guys, welcome back to this tutorial series. Okay, today we're just going to be covering a really small section of code, which is called loops and conditionals and just kind of programming aspects that you may not have learned. So you can skip this if you already know what loops are and you already know what if statements are and how to use all these things. But if you have trouble using them, and especially in a multi-rail context, go ahead and stick around for this video. So all I'm going to be doing is I'm going to just take a key binding right here, and whenever they left click, I'm going to run my loops. So I'm just going to do one at a time and just show each of them. So let's go ahead and go to entity scripts right here. And this start using item script. Instead of creating bubbles, we're going to run some loops and we're just going to mess with the chat. So first, let's showcase a for loop. So we're going to be using these kind of loops. So these ones up here, we've already explained them. Basically, they're just you run them once for every region in a type of group of regions or every item, and you can manipulate each selected item or selected region. But with these generic loops, you may not know how to use them, so that's what we're going to do now. So here for variable, and then it says so for loops basically work by taking a variable and increasing it from a number to a number. So it starts at this number and goes to this number. And so instead of just messing with the variables we already have, let's just create a brand new variable. Usually in programming, you use what's called I, and you just call this number 0. And so variable I is what we like to mess with in programming. So we're gonna just use I really quick. And so we're gonna make a for loop. Alright, so there's different kinds of loops, but we'll get to that in a second. So we have variable I. So for variable I, from 0 to 3. So how many times is this loop gonna run? Let's think about that. So it's going to run at the number 0, it's going to run at the number 1, 2, and then 3. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So whatever we put in here should run 4 times. So let's just send a chat message right here. Send chat message, and we'll just run loop. So now every time you press left click, it should run a loop. Just a very simple script just to showcase this. So I'm going to left click, and it says loop 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So that's how a for loop works. Now let's think about using a different kind of loop, and we're just going to keep running loop in the chat message. So let's look at loops. So this loop section pretty much has everything we're going to be doing today, as well as if statements. So now let's do repeat x times. Repeat the below action however many times you want to repeat it. So now you might be wondering, wait a minute, this is like the same exact thing that we just did with the loops, but with the for loop, but it's a lot easier. Well, the reason for that is that the for loop can be used on different types of um, objects, and it can be used in different applications rather than just repeating something X number of times. But yeah, if you just want to repeat something a specific number of times, you can just use this. So now if I just go ahead and left click, actually let me just type something, hello, and now I'll just type a left click or press left click, and it says 1, 2, 3 times, and you can see we repeat 3 times. So yeah, that's how repeat x times works. Now let's look at another loop. So we have skip iteration. We'll get to this in a second, but um, let's just, actually no, let's use this right now. So let's just cancel this edit, and right here, let's just type skip iteration and show you guys what this does. So I'm gonna put this before the chat message. So what do you guys think is gonna happen? Go ahead and think about what you think is about to happen in the chat. Alright, I hope you guys have thought about it. Now here's what's about to happen. So I'm just gonna left click. Oh, seems like nothing happened. Let me left click again. Nothing is happening. So let me go back in here and just see to make sure our code is not broken to paste this comment right here. And let's just save and apply and see what happens. It should only run once. See, it ran once. So let's just type hello to show you guys that it's only running once. So left click, it's only running once, even though we wrote a loop to repeat 3 times. And that's because skip iteration skips everything below it. So you can use this in an if statement and it's really helpful. Alright, so now let's talk about the next loop we're going to use. Right, this one is the most dangerous loop. It's called a while loop. The reason that this loop is dangerous is because this is the main reason that games crash. And the reason is because this loop needs to be taken care of with a statement called break. Otherwise, it will crash the game. Now, I'm not going to try to crash the game right now, but I want you guys to just do this. Run while true equals true, and then just send chat message. Just try this out on your own computer. Trust me, it's not going to break anything. But just go ahead and try this out, and you're going to see that this crashes the game. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add a statement called break, and this is called break out of the loop, right after hello. So what's going to happen is it's going to run. It's going to say, while this is true, run this loop. Okay, sure, it's true. So I'm going to run it once, send hello. But then this is break out of the loop, so it means that don't come back. So go to the next line, and since there's nothing, it stops. Let's see what happens. So I should just type hello to separate the loop text and then press left click. And you see it only ran once. So that's how this works. Whenever the conditions are true in here, it will run the loop. So while the conditions are true, continuously do the actions below. So send chat message, break out a loop. So that's how while loops work. So yeah, that's just the basics of loops. And now let's do an if statement really quickly. So if conditions. So if the conditions are true, then run the following. So let's just go ahead and show you guys how to do name comparisons. So if player name, so name of player, if the owner of this entity, so if the owner of this entity, which is the homie unit, is equal, if their name is equal to my name right here, then send chat message, and let's send our name like this. Let's use a concatenation. And right here, we're going to write hello and then the name of the player. Hello. And let's put an exclamation mark at the end as well, just to make it look nice. So in order to put an exclamation mark, you cannot just put player name. You have to put another concatenation in a concatenation. I haven't done this yet, so I'm going to show you guys how to do it. So on the left side, let's put the name of the player. So player name right here. And then let's just find owner of this entity. And then put an exclamation mark with no spaces so that it shows up next to it. So this should print it to the owner of this entity. So owner of this entity. There you go. So let's go ahead and try this out. So if the name is this, then it's going to print hello to the owner. So whenever I left click, it says hello, and it says my name. So there you go. That is basically how if statements work. So yeah, I want you guys to try using one of every single comparison. Just figure out what each of these does. I'm going to tell you right now that debris comparison and particle emitter comparison are kind of tricky, and I've never used them before. So if you don't want to use those, don't worry. But I have, in fact, used every single one of these before. So I do encourage you guys to try them out. See what the difference between unit comparison and unit type is. See what strings do, what Boolean numbers do, and just see how this affects your code. So yeah, that is the end of the basic scripting tutorial with me. And I hope that you guys learned a lot, and happy programming.